everybody, and welcome to the second TierMaker episode for the Gregsynthbootlegs channel. And it's going to be a different episode compared to the previous one because not only are we talking about the Queen 2 tour and its respective gigs, but I'm not doing this alone. And the way I decided to do this is if somebody wants to join and talk with me about these gigs, they're free to join. Just make sure you know who Queen are and don't screw up the names of the band members, and at least have a somewhat decent understanding of the gigs from the tour. And I've been looking forward to doing this for quite a while. Gotten a lot of phone calls, text messages, Discord messages, Facebook messages on when are we going to do this? Can I join? Why is it postponed? Why is this? Why is that? Well, you know, the only answer I can say is just unlucky and bad timing. But we have a good time today, and it's time to get the show on the road. I'm not going to introduce myself because that would be absolutely pointless. So I would like to bring special attention to my two guests that are going to be participating in the Queen 2 tour tier list here. The first special guest is from the country of Canada, and they won't let me come in because of COVID. I'm sorry. Here we go. Mr. Ryan, you're up first. Briefly explain who you are and kind of your general overview of the Queen 2 era shows. Just a general synopsis.
Okay, so, yeah, I'm Ryan, and, I have a channel for Queen as well, obviously. You know who I am. Queen 2, I like it. It's good, and, yeah, that's my view.
All right, short, sweet, to the point. I like it. And we have somebody else who is also from Canada in a completely different part of the country. And that person is...
He's closer to you than he is to me.
That's right. And I don't know if I should be honored or ashamed, but his name is Kieran, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Wait,
you said it right
I,
this time.
I said it
yes,
right.
do not fuck it up this time.
No, I'm not gonna fuck it up. I'm sorry. I've been saying it all day just to make sure I don't get it wrong. So, Kieran, why don't you give a brief synopsis of what you think of the Queen 2 gigs and kind of like a general overview of what you think and of the sort.
This is definitely one of my favorite tours to go through. I don't know how hot the take is, but I think I'm actually leaning towards preferring the Queen 1 era stuff, just because I think a lot of the American set lists, they wouldn't have Great King Rat at all the shows. Like New York, for example, that's an example of a show that has a cut-down set list. Compared to like how the Queen 1 tour has Hangman every night.
Hang on. They didn't have that on in 1973 at all, though.
Hangman?
No, Great King Rat.
No, I know. I'm saying not all the Queen 2 tours have Great King Rat. Like
All right,
Portland replaced it with See What a Fool I've Been. New York doesn't have either of them.
It has Jailhouse Rock, though. Anyway, go on.
I mean, I'll take Great King Rat over Jailhouse Rock.
Well, if it's an opener, then what about that?
No thanks. Yeah, that's kind of my take. I think I actually prefer the Queen 1 tour stuff, but I do love me the Queen 2 stuff. Definitely.
All right. And before I start, rambling like an idiot, I would also like to pay special attention to a special listener guest who is in this chat right now. He is getting a raw take at the episode, a front row seat, and he can hear us just squabble over stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jacques Mehouf.
Hello, it's Jacques Mehouf. I know I probably sound similar if you've watched the Elton one to a guy called Ethan, but it's a different person, believe me. So yeah, I've be honest, I've not been in Queen. I've not been into Queen this year, so I'm gonna chime in every now and then when I remember stuff. So yeah, that's me.
That's all right. Just sit back, get your glass of Guinness, and enjoy.
Guinness.
Yeah, yeah.
That's more Irish, no?
Whatever, close enough. But still,
Okay.
still, you sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Is what they would say over at the MJR theaters over here. So, for me and Queen 2, uh, I really, really enjoyed this tour. I enjoy the general era. You know, I still believe that the bands have that raw, youthful, wanting to conquer the world energy going on. Very
Hmm.
similar to Queen 1. The only real difference is obviously, some changes in the set list. And there are some subtle changes with Freddie's voice. Some are not so easy to hear, and others are quite noticeable. And I really do enjoy this era. Now, if I were to compare them back to back, Queen 1 versus Queen 2 tours, while I heavily enjoy the Queen 2 era, I would have to agree with Kieran that I do slightly prefer Queen 1.
Yeah.
But I will put an asterisk by that because both eras have very, very limited amount of recordings. And some of
Hmm.
them aren't even close to complete. So, it's going to be one of those things where, at least in my book, I can only judge on what I can hear. So,
That's true.
and not what I presume or what I think I want to hear, because chances are that could be completely wrong. So, I'm just going to go off what I hear, and I really enjoy this Queen 2 era. And I will still say that if you are relatively new to the live concerts and wanting to pick something that's not official or any sort of, you don't want to go the casual fan and just go official only, or just this one tour, this is still a very, very good era to sort of listen to and to get started, because like the Queen 1 era, Queen 2 Queen is drastically different than what the band would become in the next 6 to 7 years. So, I mean, there's a lot to digest for Queen 2, and there's a lot of good. At least I think so. So, I enjoyed listening to the gigs, running through them again and getting some new thoughts and going over a lot of things I got wrong or didn't even bother to write in those old descriptions that should be just thrown in the fire. So, I mean, I enjoy what I hear, and I'll leave it at that. So, moving on. We have 6 gigs to go through for the Queen 2 stuff. Sadly, there's only one show from the UK leg, and it's an official release, but we're going to put it in here anyway because, you have to. And then the 5 other recordings are from the US 74 leg, and that's not even close to being complete. So,
Hmm.
you know, we're missing a lot of tapes. We have a very limited amount of source material, but we're gonna soldier on, and we're gonna go forward with this, with what we have. And who knows? Maybe years down the road, new stuff will show up, and we may redo this. So, that's my take on that. Um, so we'll begin with the earliest circulating recording from the Queen 2 era, and that is the March Rainbow Show. Now, for the longest time, we've heard a version of the show that was first. Now, that was going to be the band's first official live album way back in the mid 70s, but it wasn't released, and the copy that was going to be released eventually got bootlegged and then spread around like wildfire. And for the longest time, this was the available version of the show. It was mixed and ready for an official release. There was a lot of overdubs and a lot of edits and missed songs. And while, it's a very solid listen, I'll give it that, but that's not truly what the gig was about. It was just what it was. And thankfully, the real version, or almost real version, got put out in 2014 for Queen's Rainbow box set. The official version that was released back in that year is a vastly superior version of the show in pretty much every way. You have virtually the complete show, although the cover songs are omitted. Uh, you have, shockingly enough, far less overdubs, far less edits on this version compared to the old version. That's 45 years old. How that works out, I don't know, but that's what it is. Now, that being said, there are a lot of unnecessary, at least in my view, unnecessary moments of pitch correction that I don't think was necessary at all. I mean, here's the thing. I love live shows. I get it. Nobody, even the greatest singers of all time, even the absolute greatest artists, the greatest musicians, Freddie, the God, untouchable Freddie, nobody can stay in tune 100% of the time when they sing. That's just, you can't do it. So to hear his amazing voice get manipulated like that, it just makes me want to just, carve up things and throw them in the garbage, and just irritates me because I think a lot of the edits and pitch correction done were completely unnecessary. And I don't care if Freddie's 10 cents off a note. I mean, nobody gives a fuck, really. So I'm not a fan of the, liberal use of pitch correction because I think a lot of it was unnecessary. But thankfully, the gig itself, Rainbow, is amazing. The performances are raw. They're great. They're heavy. There's a lot of inspiration. The band play like they're headlining a stadium, even though it's just a theater. I absolutely love the show. Hearing it in this more true form is amazing, and it's what the gig needed. I wish for an audience tape, just because, you know me, I love my raw audience tapes. I want to hear exactly what went down, but this is the closest we can get. It's a much more true representation of the gig compared to the old version. I love Rainbow, despite the little hiccups with the pitch correction and the edits on a few songs. It's mostly authentic. I love it for it. And I'm going to start things off by putting Rainbow in the S tier. And as you can see on the TierMaker, it is updated from Queen 1. Instead of having, letters now at the absolute top rank, the rank is now All Stars for the absolute cream of the crop, best. Then you go S, A, B, C, D, E. Obviously, All Stars is the best. E is the worst. For me, I think Rainbow will go right at S. It's legendary. It's great. It's some of the best early Queen stuff you can get, and I'm so glad it's finally getting respect on a release. So I'm going to start off by putting it at S. I'll let you two crazy Canadians fight over who goes next after me, but somebody speak up and tell me your thoughts on Rainbow, and if it goes an S or it's lower or higher. I want to hear
I think it's
somebody's
definitely
thoughts.
S. I definitely think it's S as well.
I will agree.
Like,
Well,
on top of a packed set list, like, I really love the drum sound on the 2014 release. Like, I really love how much depth it has. But overall, when I say I prefer the Queen 1 stuff, I prefer it in regards to, like the North American Queen 2 stuff. I would put March Rainbow over all of the Queen 1 stuff we have. And I strongly mean that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just got a better set list. I mean, and it's
Killer
so,
set list.
and it's
I think
diverse.
the band's in better form overall, I'd say. Freddie sounds, I think, a little bit more controlled, with his voice. Definitely a killer show. I definitely think it deserves the S tier.
All right, Ryan, you got anything to add to that?
I will agree.
All right, amazing. We're not fighting. So yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I love Rainbow. and so does my cat. So sadly, that's the only UK show we have. I want
Sadly.
more. Sadly, it's like goddamn. But here's the thing: we love Rainbow. Obviously, we have it
Oh
ranked
yeah.
highly, and it's talked about a lot, and a lot of people love it. But just think, if we get a UK tour show, a new one, it's got to measure up to Rainbow. So it's got a
Oh
huge
yeah.
measuring stick. And as what you said, it has to get measured to Queen 1 as well. So it has some competition because, the Queen 1 shows are generally very, very high quality too. So, it'll be cool to hear something new from the Queen 2 tour. Just, it's got to go through Rainbow first. So now we're moving on to where most of the gigs reside, and that's the North American 74 leg. Now, the first one we have, the earliest recording we have, is from New Orleans. For me, I really like it. I think it's one of those gigs where, there's a lot of inspiration behind it. I think
Hmm.
there's a lot of playing on it that's like, it's great, but it's more of a looser sort of a energy. It's a little bit more of a fly by the seat of your pants kind of a gig. Like the band, especially Brian, is trying out some things on
Hmm.
songs that they sound cool, they sound unique. It may not be 100% pristine or clean, but for it either works for the songs, or he finds a way to like manipulate any sort of miscalculations into something great. And I think that's an ability that Brian May still has to this day, where he can take something, even if it's a little mistake or a misfire or something, and for the most part he's able to construct something musically with it. And I think, and also with his keen sense of melody and his tasteful playing, that's why I rank him very high as a guitar player. So, that being said, New Orleans, I like it, but it has its flaws. Freddie is rough at this show. He's hoarse, has trouble accessing high notes, cracks a lot, and it's the first gig where he has, somewhat of an off night, although that's nowhere close to the quote unquote off nights that are on recordings from the opera tour and so on.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's clearly not in top form. He does try though, and he's able to effectively sing within his clipped range. But yeah, you can tell he's kind of having a hard time. But it's what, sixth gig in a row, 5, 6 nights in a row. So I can't be too hard on him. So um, I like the gig, but I think just because since Freddie isn't in exactly top form, and the playing, although it's great and inspired, isn't quite as refined as it would be later on in the tour, even though I do appreciate a lot of it. I think New Orleans, I don't think first of all, it's nowhere close to Rainbow. Um, I will put it in the B tier. I will start things off by putting it in B. Um, that's just my take on it, just by listening to it and then comparing it to some of the other shows from the same tour. I'm all open for discussion on this one. Kieran, since you've been very vocal about the show, especially on Discord, I'll let you take the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, this is at least like a low A tier type of show because this is one of those examples where, when Freddie's voice is weaker, the band's level of playing goes up. And I definitely think it shows for the jam for Great King Rat at the show. And Liar, Roger and Brian are just absolutely playing out of their goddamn minds at the show, and I appreciate it so goddamn much. Now, sure, Freddie is weaker. That is true. But I would not say he sounds bad by any means. Like, not even close to bad. It's just, there's a few moments that make you scratch your head, but nothing that I would really, call full-on bad. But I think this is a low A tier type of show just because of how creative Brian and Roger are. Like, of course, they're already very creative during this time period. Like, they're this very raw, hungry band, as you describe it. But I think they're playing above average, like, for this time period. Like, that's my take. I think they're playing their absolute asses off. That's my take, at least.
Fair enough. Ryan, where would you put New Orleans personally, and do you have anything to
Now,
add?
I have a question first. Is this within respect to the tour, or with, like, do the rankings, are they, like, with respect to the tour, or are they with respect to their whole, like, live sort of kind of, like, if I, you kind of understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be like overall live, like
All right.
because
Yeah,
he wouldn't put like Tokyo 413 like an A, even though it's really good for the tour. It wouldn't be like an A tier show.
All
in
right,
regards
all
to
right,
other
all
Queen
right.
tours.
The shows are not judged because of like the tour, or it's not ranked by the
All right.
tour in the sense
All
of
right, all right,
what he
all
said.
right.
It's
I get
ranked
that,
on its
okay.
own merit.
All right. I would give it a B because you've got Freddie in not great shape. I mean, he's still decent, but he's not great. The band are really good. That's true. That's true. I would give it an A if the set was longer. This is unfortunately when they were a support act and they only play for about 40 minutes. So I'll give it a B, but this would be like a pretty solid A tier show if they had a couple extra songs.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about it, it's like the show definitely has potential to be ranked, higher up, as opposed to, Kieran's got it at the lower A tier, we have it at B.
Yeah.
Personally, I think if I'm thinking B tier, I actually would rank it on the higher end of B, because I think the band is just so good at the show in a couple different ways that I think the creativity and the way they sound, kind of amp it up a little bit. Now, if Freddie was sounding good, like good meaning,
Better.
better, not what he sounds like there. If he sounds stronger, more consistent, I would have thrown New Orleans up an A, no hesitation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
I just think just because he sounds weaker, and I think the playing, as amazing as it is, isn't quite as refined as some of these other shows. That's what's dragging it down to the upper tier of B. Because I would give it, right at the upper end of B. I mean, that's just me personally. So, I mean,
It's completely fair. I can see where you're coming from.
yeah, because I mean,
I disrespect New Orleans a little bit more than most other people.
Well, I
just
can,
love how
I can
creative
tell.
the band
I
is.
can tell. I know. I totally get that. Yeah, and I do praise the show because I think it is very, very solid musically, and there's some great playing. So I mean,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, Brian and Roger are the absolute MVPs of that show. I mean,
And John's always good.
yeah, John's always there in the back, holding down the fort. But man, it's like you talk about some amazing playing. I mean, New Orleans has a lot of it. So, I think we're pretty good on New Orleans. Any final thoughts?
Wait,
Nah, that's
this
good.
is
Nah.
this is like the fifth show in a row, right? Did you say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
fifth or sixth.
Yeah.
And they took like 4
Yeah.
days off or something.
I start biting my nails if I see Freddie do like 2 or 3 nights in a row, let alone like 5. Really,
Don't forget this is pre-nodules, so
Yeah,
I think his stamina is a little bit better. And now if this was the 6th show in a row and like Jazz or Live Killers, then I'd be
Ooh, boy.
really biting my lips. But
Oh,
here
yeah.
this is like okay, it's temporary roughness. I know he'll sound better later. This isn't really a cause for alarm. It's just he overworked his voice. So, nothing too alarming. Okay. So, the next show we have is Providence. And,
Ooh boy.
Ooh boy. Ryan, I'll let you start this one. Where does Providence go?
It also goes in B tier for all the same reasons. It's a short set. Band are really good. Freddie's voice is a little bit on the rough side in some instances, but he sounds better than New Orleans. Yeah, if the set was longer, I'd give it A, but I mean, it's just, they're playing for, 40 minutes? Not really that long, so.
And Kieran, I have strange sense that you're chomping a little bit, at the bit there because of the tone. So, please proceed.
I think it should go into A. Like, no doubt, this is A. This is pretty much more refined New Orleans, in the sense that Freddie actually is holding up here. The set list is longer. Actually, I think it's cut on New Orleans. Is it not, or did they end with
No,
Modern
it's
Times?
not.
So
New-
it ended
yeah,
with Modern Times.
yeah. New Orleans is it is complete. There's a possibility that
Yeah, I doubt it.
but
But yeah, you have a
we'll
longer
assume
set.
it's complete. Yeah.
Yeah, you have the inclusion of like Big Spender and Bamalema Bamaloo. So it's a longer set list. On top of Freddie actually holding up at the show, compared to New Orleans. And the band is still, they're playing out of their minds. You have an incredible Great King Rat. So yeah, I think it's A tier. Definitely a solid A tier show.
For me, I actually agree with both of you, to varying degrees. Um, I think musically it's like New Orleans. It's fantastic. I think the band sound a little tighter at this gig, and a little more refined. New Orleans
Yeah.
was more like,
They're more experimental in New Orleans.
yeah. New Orleans is more experimental.
But that's really why I enjoy that show a lot.
Yeah, it's more experimental in the playing in some spots. Some of it comes out amazing. Other times it's a little, head scratching. But I mean, it works. And because obviously the effort's there, the passion's there, the youthful energy's there. So I mean, I'll take it. I think Providence has a lot of those same qualities, except with a little more control behind it. I think because the band had a few days off, after New Orleans. And I honestly think they probably just went over these songs, and just seeing like what works, what doesn't. Let's try this. I think Providence, they sound a little more controlled, but there's still the great energy, and there's still a little bit of a looseness behind the playing, even though it's not sloppy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's some fantastic playing on this gig. Great King Rat sounds great. Yeah, Freddie sounds quite a bit better at this show compared to New Orleans. I I will try to squeeze it into A. Now I would put it on the lower end of A, though, because even though Freddie is better, there's still some moments where it's a little bit pushed, but not too bad. And yeah, the set isn't the absolute greatest, although I'll take what I can get. But it's really not their fault. But yeah, I wouldn't rank it at B because I just think it has a lot of stuff that makes it a little bit better than New Orleans. I think the playing is a little more controlled. I think Freddie sounds better, and
Also, I don't think this show's all like it's. I don't think it's on the same level as a Bristol 73.
Yeah, Bristol.
I don't even remember what he ranked the other one, so I mean.
Well, Bristol. Well, I ranked Bristol 73 as a B. That being the lowest ranked show on the Queen One era. Because
Well, if you rank that a B, then I mean, like, this is probably A. Then I can understand that. I needed a reference point, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the show is better than Bristol 73, but I also think the show is a little bit better than New Orleans overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can agree with that.
So, I mean, feel free to debate, the ranking and stuff, but I think it's on the low end of A. I think it just gets into it, but by a little bit. And it's not, now, when I say that, I don't mean it just goes right top of the heap A and, it's the best ranking. I just think it can just edge itself into that ranking. So is it what, AAB, or are we all standing by our rankings?
A, yeah, I think it should go with
Yeah.
A. All right, Jacques Mihouf, you enjoying yourself?
Yes, I've got a mouthful of crisps.
Yeah, mouthful of kiss. Oh, great. So moving on to the next gig, we have Portland. Portland 74. By the way, great sounding recording from the era. This is the
Oh, yeah.
highest quality audience tape of this tour so far. And it sounds great. As for the performances, it's kind of weird because Portland has a lot of moments that just sound better than the previous two shows.
Mm-hmm. Although
But-
I
Brian,
agree.
Brian does have some tuning issues throughout the show.
But at the same time, there's some things on it that the other two edge it out on. Like, for example, the energy is definitely there, and the playing is amazing. And there's like some wild card moments on songs where Freddie sounds great. Like he's going for
Mm-hmm.
notes, and he sounds better than the previous two for the most
Yeah.
part.
Probably his best on the leg, I'd say.
Yeah, and so he sounds great, and there's some great harmony work, and the band sound tight for the most part. Brian's got some guitar issues in spots, tuning issues.
Messes up the transition back into son and daughter as well.
So it's like one of those shows where it's like, oh, there's so much going on and it sounds so great, and then you got these moments that just make you like grit your teeth or.
You also
scratch
have
your head.
Big King Rat dropped in. It's replaced with See What a Fool I've Been.
And See What a Fool What I've Been is on this gig as opposed to Great King Rant, and it sounds great. So what we have to talk about is there's a diversity on this set compared to the previous two gigs. So it's like I'm actually torn between highest B or low A, because there's just moments on this gig that are just fantastic, and it's like, yes, this is awesome. I love this. Then there's moments like the guitar fuck ups and the tuning issues, but it's like there's so much good going on. It's like part of me wants to overlook it, but part of me is like, no, you got to compare it to the other gig and go through it. And it's like there's so much going on that I could squeeze it into A, but there's like that slight consistency issue with Brian. So it's like, I will put it. I said Providence was a low A. I will put Portland at like the lowest of A, like borderline. If something else screwed up, it would be the highest B, just because of like the slight consistency issues.
It's interesting.
So feel free. I got to hear some other takes.
Yeah, so for me, like I said, I think Providence was already a full-on A. Like, I don't think it was like a low A or whatever you put it as. I think it was just a full-on A. Because Providence, I would argue that's probably Brian's best show on the leg. For Portland, however, Brian, he has his issue. He has the tuning issues. He kind of fucks up going back into son and daughter. However, this is definitely Freddie's best show on the leg, and also probably Roger's best. Either Roger's best on the leg or Roger's second best, so I think it kind of balances things out. You also have See What a Fool I've Been, which, that's always a nice addition to the set, so yeah, I would put this as low A. I would put Portland as low A.
All right, now I'm biased because this was my first ever Queen recording that I ever listened to.
I forgot it. This was the first one?
This was the first one that I ever came across on your channel. So, because I was looking up. It was when Rainbow came out in 2014, and I was looking up Modern Times Rock and Roll, and I saw this. The one from this show had came up in the search results, and the rest is history, I guess. Yeah, I will give this an A because I have a huge bias for this show, and I really like it. So.
Not much difference.
Honestly, this is my tier list. I would put Providence as low S. I'm gonna be honest. I just know yours is a little different because you have like that whole All Stars thing, so yours is kind of a little different.
Yeah, All Stars is.
Hey, now you're an all-star.
yeah, it's like get your game on, but All Stars are basically like the cream of the crop. Like very few gigs would get up there. I mean, but
Yeah.
it's just there because I found out if I had just S, all these amazing gigs would you'd have a huge line of S gigs across, and it's like,
Yeah.
hey, I gotta like divide these. So, but yeah, I mean, I get it. So yeah, A, then it is A tier.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
definitely A tier.
All right. I'm
Although are we agreeing Providence is the better show?
that's the thing. Which of the two is better? Because it's
Providence. I think
Pro-
Providence is more refined overall. I think.
yeah. I mean, it's like Providence. Yeah,
I
I
don't
would
know,
say Providence is a
don't know.
little more consistent. I will give it that. Portland has the issues with Brian, but then it's got some moments that trump Providence, and it's got a little bit more diversity in the performances. So it's like,
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can go either way, but for consistency's sake, I would rank Providence a little bit above Portland.
I haven't listened to these shows in ages, so you guys are probably right. But
Well, because
He's
you've been
bullshitting
sleeping
his way
half the
through.
time.
Yeah.
Sleeping half the time. But okay, Mr. Bullshitter.
Yeah.
The next gig that's coming up is one that has gotten a lot of love on your version of the upload. And everyone likes to quote audience members, and I'm talking about Waterbury 74. Where would you rank this show?
good question. Well, Kieran, you take it.
It's B. It's B.
That's what I was gonna say. You
It's
read
B.
my mind.
Oh,
It's
you're
B.
so full of shit.
It's B because liars. So that's already like a really important part of the show. It has Great King Rat. So I know you have New Orleans as B as well. Put New Orleans above the show. I'd say this is full on B just because we're missing a pretty important part of the show, which is the liar solo, which that's pretty important for I think all of us here. Along with the later songs, like Modern Times and all that. So
you'd rank it in the same tier as New Orleans, but a lower B.
Yeah, put New Orleans above it. This is my own. Like I said, New Orleans would be A, and Providence would probably be like light S even.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, I think Waterbury is just full on B. We need the full show. I bet if we had the full show, then there's no doubt in my mind it would be A. Although I will say this show does have a few sloppy moments here and there, like during Great King Rat, Brian messes up like the lick part, the lick that everyone loves.
Yeah, and apparently that wasn't heard compared to some other performances of the same song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he doesn't mess up the lick on the other 74 versions. New Orleans, he lets it flow. He just keeps going off and off and off. Providence, he pretty much nails the lick, but at Waterbury, he has some trouble with it. He backs out of it, so. It's B.
Well, yeah,
Freddie sounds good. Roger sounds good. Ryan is good, but it's cut, so.
Yeah, so.
Definition of a B, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we can only go off what we hear. For me, since Ryan's being quite silent, I'll take over for this a little bit. I actually agree, not only with pretty much everything you said, but I'm going to take it a step further and say that out of all the gigs that we have from Queen 274, it's the weakest gig.
Yeah, and that's mainly because it's cut,
Well, but even if I take the cut aspect out and just look at those songs, while Freddie is solid and the band are good, to me, the sloppy moments on songs, playing
Ogre Battle tape during Foul.
Yeah, that mistake. It's funny. Don't get me wrong.
It is.
It
kind of works. I'm gonna be honest. It kind of works. It doesn't sound too bad in that part of the song.
Yeah, but I just think the gig is just not up to the level of the other ones. I mean, yeah, New Orleans is a B, but that's mostly because Freddie isn't having a good night. A, huh? And it's like A to you from America to Canada. How are you? But yeah, Waterbury to me is the weakest 74 gig.
That's fair. At least as Great King Rat, which I'll always take. You know, I'll always take a new version of Great King Rat.
Yeah, and it's no shame. I think it's solid, but it's cut. The band's a little more sloppy in spots compared to the other gigs. And then you got the humorous ogre battle error. So I think the gig has a lot of good, especially sit down in the front. But I think it's marred by the errors and the fact that it's cut. And even if I were to take all that out of the equation, just look at those complete performances that we have on Waterbury and compare it to most of the other gigs, I just don't think Waterbury stands out as much as the others.
That's fair.
So yeah, B, and it's under New Orleans, at least for me.
Yeah, same for me.
And now we come to the final show that we have available for the Queen 2 tour. And this show is a special one because Queen did a whole series of shows in New York at one of the theater. I think the Yours Theater, I believe. And I really personally, I love it. Now that being said, there's moments on the show that I think are better than some of the others, but at the same time, I just prefer some of the playing on, like, say, Providence and Portland. And
oh, yeah.
So it's like, to me, this show is really, really solid. And
my biggest gripe is the set list.
But yeah, the set isn't exactly the...
Especially once you learn that they played Great King Rat at all the other New York shows.
Yeah, so to me, New York, the one we have, is very solid. And I personally really like the gig, but...
Some gutsy moments from Fred as well.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I am also going to throw it in the B tier, but a very high B. A high B.
That's fair.
Like a
New
sort of
Orleans
a...
better.
Yeah, like sort of a B where, if like one or two more things happened or so-and-so happened, it could have been A.
I mean, for me, literally, I think if they had either Great King Rat or See What a Fool I've Been, then this would be an easy A for me. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. But the fact that it doesn't have either weighs it down for me. Now, sure, you could argue that it has the Jailhouse Rock medley, whatever. I don't think that's not enough to bump it up for me personally. I think it needs either Great King Rat or See What a Fool I've Been. Because those are the songs I tend to look forward to the most for these early shows,
Yeah, that's certainly fine. So I think New York itself is great, very solid, but I just don't think it has, the full set of tools to be, an A excellent gig or, a truly amazing S or even an all-star. I think it's one of those things where it's missing a couple different elements to get it up into the upper echelons, but what we have is good enough to give it a respectable ranking.
Yeah, it's true.
So, I mean, but I'll take I'll take it. I mean, having a show at B tier and an upper B tier is no cause for any sort of like issue or shame because that's still a good ranking. I mean, here's the thing: none of the recordings we have terrible moments. None of them are even close to being mediocre. Like, there's no show that's I would consider mediocre. Close. Not close. At the very least, it's solid, and at its best, it's absolutely amazing. So, that's my quick take.
I think this is also proving that the Queen 1 tour is better overall from what we have.
Yeah, because from what I recall...
disagree, but okay.
What between Queen 1 and Queen 2?
Yes.
Oh, I meant in regard to Greg's tier list for it.
I mean, the bands share the same great energy and raw playing and stuff. So, it's not like Queen 1 and Queen 2 eras are, like, completely different to the point where...
No, not at all.
No,
I did say I'll take March Rainbow over all the Queen ones. I'm talking in regards to the North American leg. for what we have at least.
Yeah,
I would still disagree.
So you're just in love with this tour. I take it.
That's not true. I just
That's-
am. I just don't really care for the 73 stuff that much.
Ooh.
I mean, it's
That's a
good,
hot
but
take.
I don't go for it that much. It's not like I return to it like ever. So
Here's the thing. I return to it from time to time
Me
because,
too.
and there's one simple reason I do,
Mhm.
and it's because somebody's got to listen to it, and I appreciate what I hear on those recordings. Now, that being said, I don't think it's the absolute cream of the crop, best Queen stuff ever, but I think for what we have on those recordings, I think eras like Queen 1 and Queen 2 show a band that are extremely hungry for success,
Mm-hmm.
a ton of raw energy that you really do not see after a few years. I mean, there's a huge difference. I mean, there are some great shows, no doubt, later on in the decade. And when I do TierMaker lists for those tours and those tour legs,
Ooh boy.
it's going to be fun. But there's something about the earliest Queen stuff that's different than later 70s and on. There's a raw youthful energy.
I agree.
And it's just and you can't match that later on, and it's not their fault, because it comes down to experience, and they hit it big by then. Towards the end of the 70s, they were huge, absolutely phenomenally huge, and then on these early gigs, they're playing their asses off, like they got something to prove, and they want to conquer the world. They want to conquer this territory, they want to conquer this country, the state, city, part of the globe. They play even on the flawed gigs, even on gigs where Freddie's sounding rough on New Orleans, or uh, you know some sloppiness on Waterbury, or an issue on Portland or Bristol '73, where Freddie sounds a little off in spots. I mean, you hear the effort and you hear the energy, and they play like they want to be on that stage. Like it's not a chore for them at all, and that's what I appreciate personally about
Mm-hmm.
the early gigs, and about '73 and '74, stuff like this. It's not necessarily the technicalities and everything, even though Brian plays a hell of a solo, throughout these eras, and I gotta say, Roger, this is some of the best playing you'll ever hear from him.
Oh yeah.
From these eras, some of the best playing you'll hear. And if you check my versions of these shows, I mentioned Roger multiple times throughout because he's just like drumming like a madman.
When
He's on
Roger used to
fire.
care.
Oh well, hang on about that. He threw in some fills in the '80s. Give him credit, but the thing is, in the '70s, he was a legend, and just absolutely just crazy. And some of this early stuff is some of his best work that you'll hear from him. Like at least in the sense of creativity and being spirited and playing for the song and adding to the songs at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, with what Ryan said, there are some things I do prefer on Queen 2 over Queen 1. Stuff, and there's some things I prefer on Queen 1 over Queen 2. So, because, the musicianship is amazing on Queen 2, and it's, to be fair, you listen to it, and I do think it's a little more refined, and I think in some ways it's a little bit better than Queen 1. And it still has the same raw, youthful energy. So, in that sense, it's better in some ways. However, we're missing a lot of shows. There's stuff that's incomplete. So it doesn't truly paint the full picture. On both tours, I may add. Queen 1 and Queen 2. I wish there was more. But I have to go through what we have. So there are things I do prefer on Queen 2 over Queen 1's shows. The only thing I can really say that I like about Queen 1 more than Queen 2 stuff is I think Freddy sounds a little bit better. Like,
Also, Hangman.
well, Hangman, of course, Hangman's, given. But I think Freddy sounds a little better on Queen 1. Uses the falsetto more, a little bit more, diverse with his tones. Doesn't sound nearly as pushed on some of these gigs.
Yeah, I know.
I
What you
prefer how he sounds in 1974.
So like the more forceful stuff.
I don't know if I'd call it that, but yes.
But
mean.
but
I do like his Queen 2 tone. I'll
oh
agree
yeah,
with it,
yeah. It sounds great. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying from a shape perspective and a tonal diversity. I think Queen 1 shows are superior in that regard. But I will say that there are some elements on the Queen 2 shows that are a little bit more developed compared to 1. So more of the bias, there is a bit of a bias towards Queen 1's tone because of the diversity, but Queen 2 has some great shit on it. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think "See What a Fool I've Been" from Portland is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
That's a fantastic version of the song.
Portland also has a killer version of Father to Son.
Yeah.
I gotta add that.
So yeah, I mean, I can see why someone would prefer, Queen 2 over Queen 1 because it has a lot going for it. It has the same great musicianship, a little bit more refined playing, some subtle changes in Freddie, some for the better at least, a little bit more developed tone, and then of course Rainbow. I mean, Rainbow's there, so I mean, come on.
I bet if we Raw Rainbow would probably go into the All Stars category.
Oh yeah, I mean, but I'll take what I can get. And who knows? Maybe we'll revisit this tour a few years down the road. Hopefully, more tapes show up. And so yeah, I mean, so if you compare, shows here, we have, 3 at B, 2 at A, 1 at S. Overall,
I agree with most of it. There was only like a couple changes I would make.
Your personal tier list would be slightly different. I know you wanted, what was it, Providence at S?
Yeah, I think Providence would really be like light S. And if it was my way, I believe Rainbow would also be All Stars, like I said, but we don't have a rubber recording. And like I said, I'd put New Orleans in like low A.
Okay, so 2.
That's how mine would look.
So 2, potentially 3 changes.
Yeah.
But
I see where you guys are coming from for the take, so I understand why you guys wanted some of them in the other spots.
Now my question for you, Ryan, is the list that's currently up right now that we all 3 of us talked about. What's your personal tier maker for this? Would you change anything if it was 100% up to you?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So that's
that was easy.
That's easy. I mean, the only true difference is you'd bump 3 gigs up 1 ranking by a little bit, but I mean, there's not a lot of disagreements actually. I actually thought there'd be.
Wait till we get to Hot Space, and then we can talk about Hamburg.
Ooh, boy.
And Zurich.
Hot in Hamburg, and
Zurich is a better show than Hamburg, and we all know that.
Oh, please tell me you're talking about the first night.
Of course we're talking about the first
because
night.
If it was the second night, I would have stopped the recording and would have asked you if there was any dark alleys. So yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you guys want to talk about for Queen 2, or we pretty much got what we needed to get off our chests?
I think we're good, probably.
Jacques Mihouf, would you like to add anything to this since you've been listening to us for the past bit?
Apparently not.
Apparently not. It's like, I'm going to have a talk with him. So, yeah, abandoned me like that. So, whatever. So, all in all, I think it's pretty clear that the Queen 2 era of shows is reviewed quite positively.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean,
sheer heart attack. Next.
So the next one will be the European leg of the Sheer Heart Attack Tour. And boy, that's going to be a fun one. That's going to be a fun one.
B.
That's going to be a fun one. And, you know, the All-Star Glasgow show with that great quality. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's that. So Jacques Mihouf, since you were so nice enough to reappear again,
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like to add to this, or did you enjoy yourself?
I enjoyed myself when I was here. Because my computer basically died. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, and will this give you incentive to study up on your Queen shows?
Maybe.
Good,
Who
because
knows?
because if you don't, all I'm gonna say is that you're gonna have a very tough time in life. That's all I'm gonna say. So, you know, 2021 is gonna be the year that Jacques Mihouf returns to his former glory and starts getting himself involved with this stuff again. Because otherwise, I'm a mouse click away from causing you straight hell.
Well, you can't deny it's been fun having me in the Elton stuff, seeing as I've been ignoring that part for like 4 or 5 years.
Oh, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. You know, you're giggling and stuff makes me laugh. So yes, I do enjoy your takes there.
Showing you absolutely horrendous performances of songs.
Yeah, and first of all, before we end this, I like to say, if you three, yes, all of you, if you three keep sending me terrible performances of bands performing songs, time-stamping shit with my name in it, and saying Greg loves this or Greg said this, and especially you, Kieran, some of my old descriptions should not be doxed publicly all over Discord, because here's the thing. I was young and stupid and sometimes doing...
What do you mean? What do you mean it was the hack? What do you mean, bro?
And that too. But still, I don't drink wine anymore while listening and writing up descriptions, because you get what you get.
Uh-huh.
So, there you go.
I think we're done, though. We good.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. And I hope next year's better. Otherwise, so it's been fun doing this, and I can't wait to do the Sheer Heart Attack Tour stuff. It pretty much concludes it. Bye-bye.